Welcome to the Southeast Texas Normal Monthly Meeting for Thursday, March 3rd, 2016. For those of you who are new, my name is Jason Falconbridge and I'm the Executive Director. Tonight we have a special guest speaker, but first, some announcements for you tonight. Now, as you all know, early voting has already come and gone along with the primaries. Runoff elections for candidates that didn't receive 50% of the vote are going to be in about the next 3 to 4 weeks. The only opportunity that we're going to have to elect viable leaders is in the general election in November. So voting is still one of those rights that we have left in this country, and we all need to be sure to exercise that right, if we haven't already. You know, 30% of the registered voters decided the last election in the state, along with the primaries this last time here. And for this year's primaries, in order to prevent more of the same, we need to be sure to hit those polls and cast your vote out there. Now remember, it is still your choice who represents us, but change can't happen without you. Speaking of change, however, it appears that Hardin County is going to be going through a change of its own. While we were reviewing the polls this week, it appears that Hardin County will be electing a new district attorney as well as a new sheriff. Now, we aren't currently clear as to what their stance is on cannabis reform, but I'm sure we will find out soon. Hopefully for Hardin County, who happens to be one of the toughest counties on marijuana arrests, this is a step forward in the right direction for them. Now, this past weekend was certainly an eventful one. The Southwest Texas Cannabis Expo was held in Dallas-Fort Worth over the weekend, and it brought some keynote speakers along with it. Among those keynote speakers was Alexis Bortel, who not only filled the house, but didn't leave one dry eye in the audience. Now, that speech she gave was powerful. She is now 351 days seizure-free. Yeah. Now, as many of you know, this young lady left Texas last year to receive Haley's Hope, which is a 3-part cannabis oil treatment. And that has obviously worked wonders for her. Now, if you haven't seen her speech yet, make sure that you guys check it out online. It's awesome. Now, the expo didn't just bring the keynote speakers for the legalization movement. It also brought with it business investors and marketers for a possible future legal market in Texas. Now, for those that were looking to break into the legal market, watch for the next one, because you may just want to attend it. On Saturday, the Southeast Texas Normal booth was set up at the Boomtown Music and Film Festival. While we were there, I had the pleasure of briefly working with 3 of our volunteers. Unfortunately, not long after we were set up, we were forced to close our booth down. From what we were told at the time, a city council member apparently did not appreciate our presence at the festival and ordered the coordinator to shut us down or be shut down himself. Now, there may have been a small clause in their contract.
Hey, we got a representative from the.
I'm the director.
Okay, great.
It wasn't a city council member.
Okay.
I never actually said it was.
Okay, that's actually what I was told when I was in that group there.
I was the one walking to you, and I didn't say something. I said it was someone from the city. There are a lot of people working with the city.
Okay, all right. So we'll clear that up then.
It was Emily Wheeler is the one that called us. It was her boss. She hasn't told us which boss it was. I don't know that it necessarily is my business to know which boss the person was, because she told us that if there were any questions, we could call her. I'll call her. And yesterday, we gave her number recorded. So that's who y'all need to talk to.
Now, it was also my further understanding that there was something contractual with it as well, that we were not made aware of that first, okay? That it was something in the clause about what kind of, well, actually, we went on a contract, and that we couldn't be there. That was the second thing. So that's what we were trying to clear up as to what had happened, because later on, after I had talked with you, and of course I was in that group, there was after the city council, and it was just so that didn't come from your word, that didn't come from your mouth, obviously, but one of the people there did say that. So now that we've got that cleared up, that's no longer an issue. I do appreciate
the ordinance that it was not being y'all violated. We violated it.
Okay.
We violated an ordinance by having it. In hindsight, apparently what we should have done is given them a list of our vendors and told them exactly what was going to be there. That is 100% our fault, and we know that. It is my first year as director, and since I know y'all were there last year, I didn't think anything of it.
That's why I didn't think there'd be a, that's why I didn't think there'd be a problem, because we didn't have no problem last year.
And it was an oversight on their part.
Yeah. It's a misunderstanding, we completely understand.
That's really all it is a miscommunication.
But the ordinance itself, which is very cleverly worded, is section 14.05.010. It's a little deep down in there. I have actually read it. I'm just not a lawyer and didn't understand exactly how broad this was. But it says prohibited uses. Any use of the city event facilities which is contrary to the public health, safety, welfare, or morals are not in the best interest of the city as determined by the city manager or his designee shall be prohibited. Which basically says if they don't like it, they have the right to say they can't be there. And that's why they told us we have 3 options. We could either pay them back for the sponsorship, which we couldn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Or we could shut down the event and not pay the sponsorship, which we couldn't, because we had filmmakers come from out of the state even to be at the festival. Several of which we had paid to do so, paid for to do so. But also, we could ask y'all to leave. We didn't want to do that. It sucked. It sucked a lot. I felt really, really bad. It was embarrassing. I felt stupid that I didn't think about it beforehand. I felt stupid as someone who personally agrees with y'all to have to say, y'all can't be here. But I had to do that as the director because we couldn't have paid them back for the sponsorship.
As I've got a question. As going forward in this, should we pursue anything with the city as far as, because according to the wording that you read out, it would have to be against the moral judgment of the community, or that is bad for the community. And as being a non-profit chapter, we're not promoting any illegal substances. Therefore, our education is not detrimental to our society.
The part that I understand to be the loophole, basically,
Right.
is
Up to the city council.
as determined by the city manager.
So that would be who we would need to talk to.
That's Kyle. I'm not sure what his last name is. I just heard him referred to as Kyle.
Would that cause any problems?
Kyle Baylor.
Would that cause any problems between you and event coordinators for next year? Because we don't want to burn any bridges or anything like that, or cause any problems. We just want our voice to be heard and be able to go to public events and promote education. We're not promoting illegal activity, you know.
Yesterday morning, the person that our contact told me to have y'all call is Emily Wheeler.
Okay, that's who I need.
Yeah.
All right,
She is
we'll
our
get that cleared up.
contact with the city. She does our contract, and she's the one that called us that day.
Okay, we'll get that cleared up. Thank you for explaining it
I
more in
do
detail.
appreciate your input in clearing this up, especially, I mean, it's miscommunication on my part, and,
Well, and we were confused as well that day. We didn't even know that it was Emily's boss at that point. She just told us that her higher up, someone higher up the chain than her, told her she needed to do something about it. And we didn't know, what exactly it meant to the future of our relationship. We are still on good terms with them, and there is no harm done at this point.
Okay.
The reason they reached out to us again yesterday morning was because, at least according to Emily, the city council or the office for the mayor was receiving up to 6 calls a day, every day, and emails, and they had no idea what it was even about. They didn't even know. It was kept from them, kind of fortunately, honestly, because
Well,
they do approve the sponsorship.
I wonder if Copta was calling the city, because I know we called once,
I
twice,
actually
okay,
called
twice. But, they will exaggerate and, say we called more, to make it sound more of a problem, so, we
Exaggeration.
stopped.
I honestly assumed that it probably wasn't one of y'all, and it probably was somebody that had just heard about it.
Right, wanting to know, yeah.
And yeah,
Concerned citizen,
yeah.
I understand.
And so we don't have any frustration towards y'all. The only frustration I had was while all this was taking place on Facebook, every time somebody reached out to Boomtown as an organization, I responded promptly. I have the messages on Facebook when Corey sent us a message at 6:20 something on Saturday, which was while the festival was going on. I responded to him. Admittedly, it was a lot later, but before I even got home and took my shoes off. It was 1:27 in the morning. I hadn't even left Crockett Street yet, and I responded with all the information at that point in time that I knew. And then once Emily called us to ask us why the mayor's office was getting phone calls, I immediately sent him another message and gave her Emily's phone number and my own phone number. And then I started getting messages from people today that people are posting on Boomtown pages about it and saying that people are ignoring them. But I hadn't ignored anybody.
I understand.
One person
It's,
reached out.
you're not a social media where you don't, it's not your job to answer those immediately and get to it, but we appreciate your cooperation in this, we really do.
And I apologize on behalf of Boomtown. We're going to figure something out. We're going to try to start having more events throughout the year, and as long as it's not one that's sponsored by the city, then we'd be happy to have it.
Well, we're going to look further into why the city won't allow us to be at public events, because nothing that we show, even the leaf image is not detrimental to our society. The government propaganda that's made it demonized and makes people see that image as a negative image is the problem. And that's why we use that image and why we use Hempy.
Well, and I will say, I don't think it's a public event in general.
Right.
That's at least not the understanding I have from the conversations I've had with Emily since all of this went down. The way she has explained it to me, it has everything to do with the sponsorship and not really anything to do with it being a public event. Now, I could be misunderstanding her.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
But the way it's been worded to me, it's about the sponsorship and the substantial amount of money that they don't make us pay for all this stuff we get to use.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you. Excellent. Well, now with that out of the way, let's see here.
Sorry about that.
On a lighter note, there's going to be a fundraising event at the Texas Rose Saloon on St. Patrick's Day. We're going to be there in support of Jeremy Gordon that day, so if you're going to be in the area, swing through and show your support. Every little bit counts. Now, coming sooner and faster than we thought is 420 Fest. Now, we're currently hammering out the details on this, but since this is your chapter, we'd like your feedback on who and what you'd like to see at your festival. Now, if you have any suggestions, whether it be bands, speakers, or even if you'd like to see some stand-up comedy, just let us know. Now, there are 3 dates in particular that you are going to want to mark on your calendars. All of them are in the month of May, and it's a very busy, but sure to be fun month. On May 7th, Southeast Texas NORML is going to be co-hosting the 2nd annual Global Marijuana March in Houston. Now, it's going to begin at Houston City Hall at 901 Bagby Street. Now, this is always a great opportunity to raise visibility and awareness to the cause. Now, you're also sure to have a great time, trust me. On May 14th, the Texas NORML is going to be marching on the state capitol for their 9th annual Marijuana March on the Capitol. It's going to begin at 3571 Far West Boulevard in Austin. This one was a bit longer than the Houston March, so be sure to bring plenty of water. Chapters from all over the state are going to be there, so come join us all and help us show the state that we mean it. On May 21st, members of the DFW NORML Bridge Brigade are going to be coming down to once again do a banner drop from the Lamar Footbridge at MLK. Afterward, we will likely head out to Bolivar Peninsula for a get-together on the beach. So if you'd like to join us, mark it on your calendar and bring your family, bring your friends. Now, we are still participating in Operation Track. If you know of a veteran who deals with an injury, whether it is visible or invisible, get them involved. 23 veterans die every day due to the hardcore drugs that they take for their treatment. Some exacerbate their pain or PTSD and it appears to be too much for them. Others cause an accidental overdose. Because the pain is so bad, more pills are taken. Our brothers and sisters deserve better than what they get right now. All we are asking for is a prescription bottle, minus the information tab. Inside, a slip of paper with the campaign that they served in, the injury that they sustained, and if they'd like, their name and unit. A memorial is going to be built out of the collected bottles, and it's going to be set up at the state capitol on Friday, November 11th, 2016. Our men and women in uniform, like I said, they deserve much better than what they currently receive.
Yes.
Now, as we head into March, we are actually doing a membership drive right now. As you all know, we are a membership-driven organization, and the key is these memberships help to fund the events that we put on for you, as well as the merchandise that we make available to you and to new members. So if you know anybody that's, whether they're on the fence about it or they're curious about it, get them involved, because the more people that we do have involved, the more people are going to be able to hit the polls and make the right decisions for our future. So get people involved with the memberships. We're membership driven, and this is your organization, so let's all grow together. Now, we're going to be presented with more opportunities to make our presence known in the community, so whether it be through outreach by our street team or however the means, it's important that we take the advantage of better weather and increase our presence in this area. Now, if any of you are willing to hit the streets, have some fun, educate someone else, get with us immediately after the meeting. We'll have a blast out there. Now, currently on the national level, there are several bills in Congress that are still being debated in regards to cannabis. Among them are bills like the CARES Act, the Tax Marijuana Like Alcohol and Tobacco Act, and my favorite, Ending Federal Marijuana Prohibition Act. Now, the only way that these or any other bills are going to gain any traction is if your legislators hear from you all. Call their offices, write them emails, write them snail mails, whatever it takes. But for them to represent us, they have to hear from us personally. Now, it's no secret that the movement to legalize cannabis is sweeping this nation. And even here in Texas, it's stronger than it ever was. With bills like House Bill 2165 that made it all the way to the House floor this last year, and the Limited Compassionate Use Act. But along with these changes, there comes a new set of challenges, not just for us, but for law enforcement. While the U.S. Border Patrol has seen a decrease of poundage of marijuana crossing the border, down from 2.5 million pounds in 2011 to 1.9 million pounds in 2014, there still has been a great deal of activity by cartels and gangs, who are focusing on harder drugs like crystal methamphetamine, cocaine, heroin, flocka, and woo, just to name a few. Trust me, I didn't point them out. Now, it's no doubt that the legal market is in some ways reducing cartel and gang profits from marijuana sales, which is lucrative to their operations. But how do we further curtail that with the new set of issues that arise? We all know that it was the end of alcohol prohibition that ended the business of people like Al Capone. Can that be achieved in this day and age? Can we see a shift in the policies that will allow us to put gangs and cartels out of business and deliver safe medicine and recreation to the people? Here tonight to discuss these and other unique issues is former U.S. Assistant U.S. Attorney Baylor Wortham for Jefferson County. So please give him the floor and a warm welcome.
Thank you, everybody, for the invitation to speak with you this evening. I'll go ahead and apologize to our sign language interpreter. I sometimes talk a little fast, and so if I'm a little tough to keep up with, just smack me. I'll be, the normal screen. But I've been pulling up signs now that the primary is over. Pulling up my campaign signs. You may have seen I'm running for judge in the 136th District Court. So with any campaign, there's about 450 big 4x4 signs that we put out, and so they all have to be pulled up within a few days afterwards, and so no time to waste. So I apologize if I'm a little disheveled this evening. Jason invited me to talk to you a little bit about the drug cartels and the trade we've got that's going on in Texas, and then kind of the situation that's going on in Colorado and the circumstances that's surrounding that. First, I'd like to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm born and raised here in Beaumont, Texas. My father is Bob Wortham, if the name's familiar. He's the Jefferson County District Attorney. And when I started practicing law in 2006, I started off at Jefferson County DA's office. I was there for 3.5 years when I had the opportunity to move to the U.S. Attorney's office in 2009. Started off in Port Arthur dealing with violent crime, primarily. You may recall back in late 2009 there was a tremendous problem with Hispanic gangs and the gang violence, how basically people were shooting at each other for reasons none other than that guy's wearing a blue shirt and I'm wearing a red shirt. And so much so that neighborhoods are being turned into war zones. So we tackled the gang problem, focused on the leadership. The violence decreased by 33% over a year-long period. After that, they moved me to what's called OCDEF, which is high-end drug trafficking type cases, primarily dealing with the drug cartels. Anybody that's lived in Texas, you know that I-10 is a corridor to the eastern seaboard, and so the drug trade flows heavily through southeast Texas. In October of 2015, I had the opportunity when Judge Sheffield was retiring that I would be able to run for this position. So I, because of the Hatch Act, I had to resign my post with the U.S. Attorney's Office in order to be a candidate in a partisan race. So here I am campaigning full time, but given my background and experience, I think there's a lot of information I could be able to bring to you that it'd be interesting and helpful for a very productive discussion. Where we are right now in certainly what's going on with Colorado, I think everybody here has been kind of following that and monitoring what's been happening in Colorado. And from the being a former U.S. attorney, I'm always kind of watching what the DEA is doing to monitor the drug cartels, what's going on in Mexico, but also here in the United States. Maybe you may or may not know, but the largest terrorist organization in the world are the Mexican drug cartels. And the most well-funded terrorist organization in the world are the Mexican drug cartels. And the Mexican drug cartels have killed far more people than Al-Qaeda and ISIS combined. People say, well, my gosh, you see, you know, ISIS, they beheaded the guy and then put it on the internet. Well, the cartel's been doing that for years. You know, they talk about the, you know, ISIS bombed this group or did this bombing in some area. Well, the cartel's been doing that too. The difference is that while you have these religious fundamentalist groups that are actively engaged in harming people, they're in the Middle East. The cartel is right here on our front door, actively engaged, you know, right here in the state of Texas. But Jason talked about how the amount of tonnage of marijuana that's coming in from Mexico into the United States is decreased. That's because you have to look at the financial figures that are associated with that. The most profitable part of the trade, of the drug trade that the cartel engages in, the most profitable drug that they handle is marijuana, hand over fist. The problem that they have is that transporting marijuana in large bulk is very difficult because it literally takes 18 wheelers to do it. So what's happening is the cartel's setting up very large grow operations, literally right here in Texas. There's been several grow operations in Liberty and Jasper County and the rural areas where they've been doing this and growing marijuana by the tonnage. And so when we talk about being able to shut down the cartels and people ask, well, how do you win the war on drugs? It's very simple. It's that you have to make the drug trade unprofitable. And so one of the easiest ways is when you look at the marijuana trade, which is the most lucrative, one of the angles that's been talked about is what's going on in Colorado and how that's a way to take away the marijuana trade from the cartels. That's going to hit their pocketbook, which is going to help shut them down. The problem is that as Colorado's been monitored, there are several issues that have kind of risen that were not expected. For instance, in Colorado, it's been decriminalized and marijuana is being sold in dispensaries. But because there's such a hefty tax, there's actually a very robust black market in Colorado involving the marijuana trade. In fact, 2/3 of all marijuana sold in the state of Colorado is on the black market. Well, who do you think controls the black market? The Mexican drug cartels, who are again in Colorado growing and harvesting and dispensing marijuana themselves. But it becomes very challenging because you have so many legal growers and dispensers trying to distinguish, well, who's doing it legally and who's not, because it's very difficult to infiltrate because most of these things happen behind closed doors in large warehouses. And so what we've seen is actually the reverse effect where this trade is actually generating more revenue for the cartels than the decriminalization. So where you look at is, well, what are some of the things that could be done to try and address it?
Be in the middle of the tax amount. That way, it's more competitive with the black market pricing.
Well, and that's one of the suggestions or the possibilities to look at how to impact that, which is take the tax off of the retailer and possibly shift it to the ultimate consumer, where you do it by either year-long permit. But people aren't necessarily, the lawmakers aren't as interested in going that route because they say, well, that won't generate as much tax revenue for us.
Right.
And so, but if you look at it,
there was a ridiculous amount of tax revenue.
Oh, it was very large amount.
Ridiculous.
You know, we're looking at $100 billion market, $100 billion market by 2029.
I mean, can we not even cut that a third? I mean, really?
Well, no, I don't doubt that whatsoever. As far as and that's you know, with the estimations of what they talk about with the trade of you know, within the country and likely to be a growing trade as well. But you have to look at basically what the priorities are. My priority's always been shutting down the cartels because of the dangerousness that they carry with them. So if getting a little bit less tax revenue shuts down the black market and then allows people to engage in the I guess the easiest way you can say the experiment that was going on in Colorado. And I call it an experiment because every other state is monitoring Colorado and watching what's happening there. Like when I messaged Jason, we were talking before we came here, I said, Colorado is sort of the canary in the coal mine in that if what they have is successful, you will likely see it expand to other states. But if what they have fails, then you'll likely see every other state say, well, Colorado's tried it, it didn't work, we're not going to take political risk, if nothing else, if we're trying to dive in and try the same experiment again. So,
but it didn't fail.
No, I'm not saying
it failed.
No, I'm not saying it's failed either. Right now, but I'm saying if what they have has so many problems that they say, okay, we're going to roll this back and then shut it down. If what they are doing turns out to be a failure because they don't operate it correctly, then kind of end up going back to square one. If what they have ends up being successful.
Why did they have to give a ridiculous amount of money back to their local citizens in Denver because they overtaxed? I mean, come on, there was a ridiculous amount of tax that shouldn't have been going on.
Well, what we have to remember too is there's going to be a lot.
I think it was 2008 whenever they passed the referendum. I think in 2009 is when they started going to the
And we'll argue the tax later.
Now, but it's steadily it's a growing industry. And what some of the other things we're dealing with as well is on the financial front, most of the banks and such money that the distributors have been engaged in
Tax it like
because.
you do anything else, just don't tax it to death.
I agree with you. I think the tax that they have is creating the problem. It's creating this window for the cartels to move in, and I think that needs to be addressed. And so when we talk about having and obviously I think NORML is going to have a presence, and they've got a presence in Colorado with the legislature as being an issue that certainly needs to be looked at. But when you put dollar signs in front of politicians, they're usually going to say, oh, well, so trying to get them to convince them to lower the taxes on that, I think it's going to be a tough battle. But that's the battle for what Colorado is doing to be successful that ultimately needs to be won, because right now with the cartels, what they're doing, they're using Colorado now as a place to grow and cultivate, and then they're exporting from Colorado into other states. So now other states are having ground to stand up and say, no, you need to stop what you're doing in Colorado because it's adversely affecting us. Or that's the litigation is they're suing.
I understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying. Where they'll move in and they'll ship out of that state to other states. It's not legal. But that's the whole reason why we need to legalize across the United States. That way there's no trafficking.
It's not the legal growers and dispensers. This is the drug cartels that are exploiting what's going on in Colorado for their own personal financial gain.
You're looking at it and using that as guide.
No. I'm not suggesting. What I'm saying is what is that what Colorado has going on is everybody's watching and monitoring. And so the critics are going to say, if there's problems, this is why you shouldn't do it, because now look how strong the cartel.
And make improvements, but we can make improvements.
Oh, right, and that's what I think the discussion really need to focus on is what are the issues and what are some of the problems that we need to solve those issues. And so,
at least I think both sides are willing to move in that direction.
Sure. Yeah.
Government people.
Right, because the more that things transpire without, basically things falling off the map, I think you're going to see more and more states come out and say, well, look, the tourism in Colorado has increased because of, people now perceive this as when you go to Colorado, you go to a dispensary and you can buy legally, and so the tourism numbers have, I think, I haven't seen for the most recent years, but I know that they have increased. I can't tell you what the percentage is off the top of my head, but I know they've gone up significantly. And so
their ski resorts got a ridiculous amount of
without question.
Extra people hitting the swirl.
Well,
Without
yeah,
question.
places that but medically here, by the time that dollar comes around and y'all make a decision on let's just either fight the cartel or fight this, and by the time that you take care of your people, we're going to have to move.
Well, and I think what we have to remember here is, even after alcohol prohibition ended and they reinstituted the regulation process, there were growing pains.
Yes.
Now they're not as bad as what they are now because we have had almost 8 decades of marijuana prohibition in this country. So the growing pains of a market are going to be, they're going to be hard ones. But as long as we take a common sense approach to it and, you know, take the time to develop a good, strong plan, then you won't have the issue of, you know, cartel involvement, gang involvement. Well, they may be involved to a level, but you will strongly curtail that.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, I mean, I think when you look also, we talk about the legalization issue, you've kind of got two categories of arguments. You've got the medicinal marijuana discussion, which if you have marijuana that will treat or cure many times potential very dangerous or life-threatening or chronic condition, that there's really not a very strong argument against allowing somebody to have a choice on what they use to treat and medicate themselves. Now, but then, and so you got one category here, and then you got another category where you talk about recreational use. And so, I think
But that's what's going to shut down the cartels.
well, no, I think where you got to basically, you know, be straightforward is a lot of times people will use the medical marijuana argument as a basis for recreational use, and I think what you got to say is just be direct about both. If you're going to say, you know, we're going to decriminalize for the purpose of recreational use, I think having a clear, concise message of saying this is why it should not be in the same category of all these other drugs who have, you know, addictive quantities you don't have people that are dying because they overdosed on marijuana, but you have it on people who overdose on pain pills, heroin, methamphetamine, and cocaine, and all these other drugs. So, and alcohol, and you know, trying to draw distinctions between the two, and when you look at it in that light, then it allows people to take a little bit different perspective. And so, obviously, when you have this discussion, I mean, like Jason was talking about earlier, there's a lot of people that have very preconceived notions. It's an uphill battle that you know, you're having to overcome beliefs and convictions that people have had for 30, 40, 50 years. It's kind of difficult to change people's thinking. And I can tell you that usually in 15 minutes you have to meet with somebody, usually you're not going to be able to persuade them.